To arts, culture, and things in between. I'm the host, Rose October, and I'm glad that you can join me. As usual, I would like to welcome those of you who are coming on for the first time and encourage those of you who've been here for quite some time with us, with me since I've started, to continue doing what you're doing, coming on Sundays at 3 to 5. Truly appreciate. But like always, I like to start off with talking about a little bit about what this program is about, arts, culture, and things in between. This program is one that features individuals who are gatekeepers of our arts and culture. They are not only performing artists, but also teachers, advocates, and scholars who focus on the preservation of the arts and culture. When arts is mentioned, it's being referred to as the different art forms, like visual, applied, or performing arts. Visual arts, for example, would be like painting, sculpture, photography, film. Applied arts would be like architecture, designing and or building a project. Fashion design, working with different types of patterns and fabrics, would be considered applied arts. So would be jewelry design, working with materials such as wood, plastic, metal, silver, and gold, in addition to various types of stones. Furniture design, working with various types of woods, the ways that the woods are cut and designed. When we look at performing arts, we would be talking about music, photography, film, theater, opera, drama, singing, stand-up comedy, and of course, my passion, dance. So those would be some of the pieces that would come under arts. Let's look at culture for a bit. When culture is mentioned, it generally means the way of life for a particular group of people. So for this program, it is inclusive to mean the various groups of individuals that embrace the way of life, looking at attitudes and behaviors. What is important to note, though, is that as culture is mentioned, I'm really looking at how practices are passed from one generation to another. So I just told you about arts culture in the name of the program, Arts, Culture, and Things in Between. Let me tell you a bit about things in between. The things in between are life issues that affect the execution of the arts and cultural practices. This involves both positive and negative experiences that become part of the creative process. My guest today is a guitarist, band leader, and communications specialist. And believe it or not, she embraces arts, culture, and things in between. But before I tell you about her, let's watch her at work.
Hi, so this is what we do, you know, unplugged and unapologetic. Going again. Oh my gosh. Trending home music. The Trinidadian slang is amusing, but most foreigners may find it confusing. So as you see, it is necessary Trinidad should have its own dictionary. We all consent. English is very hard to learn, so we invent a language of our own. But if you just land here, you're in a monkey pants. To understand, you won't stand a chance. Like if I say, she tried to mama guy, this shagabat. Well, not a foreigner at all can interpret that. That means she want to make a kunumunu, meaning she wanted mine. She and the sweet man too. So he cussed the wabi till she basodi. Well, as you see, you can't disagree with me. Webster should have come to Trinidad to complete his dictionary about concrete. Oi. looking so too big. A foreigner go bound to jump off his seat. We think Tabanka is a sweet piece of meat to eat. And if you try to convince him, he may tell you you lie. Tabanka can't bring no tears to a big man eye. No. We'll shout Mr. Steve and ask his wife for some Tabanka for breakfast. Please hear me again. This big belly woman so cook say. Him a raspberry child, getting cocoa baby. And when you want to bamboozle your partner Fred, you're giving him a 6 for a 9 instead. So they really should give the first prize to we for our splendid speaking ability. You see,
Webster should have come to Trinidad to complete the dictionary.
so the conky music, I didn't remember day. Vibes in the top in the house. Well, no one can state how these words originate, but who invented them was really great. And I think the time will reach when the government will teach school children to use them in speech. So you might hear a big boy say, how you so move along? Or Andrew boy, your feelings are watching. But I'm betting anybody took a party. Now we go have to search no dictionary. If you have cocoa in sun, then look out for rain. That is a local quotation we pack with brain. And if you have cocoa bay, try and to get yours. We already ran Grammar's cars. They say Shakespeare great in philosophy. Lucky he never tangled with we.
Webster should have come to Trinidad to complete the dictionary.
Sing the chorus for me.
Webster should have
Come to Trinidad.
to complete the dictionary.
Plus the accent sexy.
Webster should have come to Trinidad to complete the dictionary.
I said to listen to the story. Webster should have come.
Trinidad to complete the dictionary.
You just can't leave out the Trini. Webster should have come to Trinidad to complete the dictionary. Oh my gosh. There were some vibes there, I can't guys.
That was my guest at work, the incomparable Marva Newton. So let me tell you about Marva Newton, my guest today. My guest today, Marva Newton, is a Trinidadian. Although some individuals would say she is Trinbagonian. As a matter of fact, she is joining us from Trinidad today. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Spanish and Linguistics from the University of the West Indies, along with professional certificates in marketing and advertising from the Chartered Institute of Marketing and London Chambers of Commerce and Industry, respectively. Marva is a guitarist, band leader, and a communications specialist. Over the past 25 years, he has straddled the arts and culture circuit as a musician and the corporate world as a public relations and communications professional. Marva's critical involvement in music, theater, and the arts began in 1992, when she was made band guitarist and later band leader for Raul Gibbons' I Wonder Fall, the second in the playwright's groundbreaking trilogy of calypso dramas. For her, a self-described calypso aficionado, this opportunity was like a dream come true. Since then, Marva has worked extensively in music and theater in key performance and coordinating roles. Much of her experience was shaped and guided by musicians, theater directors, and playwrights, to whom she remains forever grateful. These stalwarts include Immort Serant, Louis McWilliams, Raul Gibbons, Dr. Lester Ifibo Wilkinson, and Desmond Way, just to name a few. Ultimately, like others have invested in Marva, her dream is to help young people fulfill their personal development goals through a unique mix of motivational exchanges that include elements drawn from Trinidad and Tobago's local music, culture, and traditions. The following highlights Marva's artistic involvement and cultural contributions. Is a member of David Brew and Friends Vintage Kaiso Band since 1992. He has adjudicated at all levels of international Soca Monarch competitions between 2010 and 2014, inclusive of junior and senior editions. He's been the band leader of Kyrie Kaiso, an acoustic group on a mission to keep Calypso alive while celebrating the masters of the art form. And this was launched in 2011. We just saw Marva and the band. She's a musician, and she has been a part of Who Taking Advantage of Who, the Mighty Sparrow and Caribbean Man-Woman Relationships and lecture demonstration by Professor Patricia Mohammed at Cave Hill at the University of the West Indies in 2015. He's been the music director for Sing the Chorus, National Calypso History Month in 2018. He's been a part of Gimme Story International Storytelling Festival in the Cayman Islands in the years 2011, 2016, and 2019. She's been the guitarist for the David Brew and Friends. She's also been with Red Sky Festival, K-Fest in Cayman Islands in 2018. And she was the guitarist of David Brew and Friends there. How about going to Rupununi Music and Arts Festival in Georgetown, Guyana, 2019? That was just last year. And this was Kyrie Kaiso in performance there. I'm sure we'll get to see a little bit of that later on here. She's been a guest artist with Kyrie Kaiso at Barata Productions' inaugural virtual festival of Bangkok Caribbean Culture Festival just last month. And I must take a quick minute from you, Marva, to shout out Andrew Clark of Bankra Festival and Barata Productions. Marva has also been a musician for If Sparrows Say So, public lecture demonstration in honor of the Dr. Slinger Francisco, also known as Mighty Sparrow. He's tutored in Parang, folk, and calypso at St. Jude's Home for Girls, and Youth Training Center in Trinidad. He's also done lecture demos regarding the calypso art forms in schools. So these are a few pieces of Marva's life. But I must say, although less emphasis is placed on Marva's singing, she has toured internationally as a musician, meaning a singer and guitarist. Known for her authentic and flavorful guitar strum, Marva performs calypso through the ages with her group, Kyrie Kaiso. And as I mentioned earlier, since 2011, this acoustic outfit has been pursuing its mission of keeping the golden tradition of calypso alive while celebrating the original exponents of the art form. Calypso is both entertaining and living folklore, she says, giving voice to Trinidad and Tobago's rich and varied stories. Through the music, unplugged and unapologetic, Kyrie Kaiso delights in spreading positive vibrations and sharing vibrant memories about Trinidad and Tobago with the world. To you, my viewership, my guest, Marva Newton, will be leaving us with lasting memories of Trinidad and Tobago's music as we discuss with her life as a musician and beyond. So I ask you to help me welcome my guest, Marva Newton, to Arts, Culture, and Things in Between. Welcome, Marva.
Thank you, Rose. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon to you. Thank you very much for having me. This is amazing. This is amazing. I'm really humbled at the opportunity to to chat, to speak very naturally about the work that I do and the things that interest me, and that's what it is about.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I am so, I'm beyond happy for us to meet up again and do this, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Give thanks. Give thanks.
Yeah, so I have a few questions that I thought of, and I thought these questions would help us to get to know Marva a little better, a little differently. And so I'm hoping that the candid conversations will allow you to be vulnerable at times without fright as we have this discussion about you. So we just watched that clip with you and Carrie Kaiso.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And I don't mean to be insulting to the gentleman in the band, but I have to talk about girl power when I see it. So don't come for me, please. Don't come for me. I love you too, but I just thought it's kind of empowering.
Mm-hmm.
It's motivating. It's sexy to see a bunch of girls.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And when I put the group together, at first in 2011, you would see some changes. My sister was with me, and I used a lot of other instrumentation, electronic instruments. And then over time, this outfit, as it is now, it works better for me in a number of areas. And I'm happy to have my flautist, Michelle Marfan, who happens to be my cousin, on board, background singer Nicole Carter, and James Fenton is on the inside. But three-thirds of the group is about, it's female. And I felt that when I looked around that the men, the gentlemen, the Calypsonians, who were keeping the art alive, doing their bit, maybe not as mainstream calypsonians, but as entertainers doing calypso. I didn't quite see women being represented.
So hold
Moving,
that thought.
you know,
Yes,
what?
hold that
Uh-huh.
because I want us to throttle back a bit.
Uh-huh. Okay. Okay.
So
Mm-hmm.
this question is going to tickle you. I'm warning you.
Oh my gosh.
So you're a communication specialist,
Okay. Uh-huh.
along with many other titles in the artistic arena.
Yes.
As a communication specialist, what do you do? And I'll get to the piece with the music later. So what do you do? Are you actively involved as a communication specialist right now?
Right. So I have been employed. That was my formal work as a communication specialist over the years. And if I were to break it down to, in the simplest forms, I helped the organizations that I worked with to put out their story, to the public and received information from the public. So there was that exchange. That's essentially what it was. It might have touched on media relations and how I treat with members of the media because they are big stakeholder in getting messages out. It might have touched on public relations or stakeholder relations. But at the end of the day, it's about that information exchange. And I always felt that if at the end of the day, somebody can make a better decision, maybe one that impacts on their pocket or one that impacts on quality of life issues. And I was part of that equation, however small. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. And that's how I measured it. And so I had to draw, as a communicator, you draw upon your skills to speak, to treat with people, the interpersonal skills. Writing as well was a big, or is a big part of what I do. And as you said when you're introducing me, I straddled both worlds, the arts always inside of me, doing, what I do as a guitarist. And at the same time, not cheating anybody, but certainly because the one needs to pay the bills and that kind of thing. And I know we will talk about that kind of thing later on. I still had to have an employer, but it's an area that was enhanced by my activity in the arts. That goes without saying. There's so many ways that I saw that, down to, the writing, as I said, to, speaking, the confidence that I got in order to host. I had to do, a lot of hosting of shows, or even a radio program that I hosted for one of my former employers, a major business association. So, and I saw where the rigors of the theater and the discipline of music and theater enhanced what I did as a communicator. So
this is the question that's going to really tickle you now. This is a part of the question. How come a degree in Spanish and linguistics and not theater arts or music? I mean, how come?
Rose, you want me to kind of show up my age here or something? because the first thing is that, at the time, I was gravitating towards the University of the West Indies. I'm a graduate of the St. Augustine campus. But the music program and the theater program were not fully developed yet. And so I gravitated to what interested me: language on the whole. I may not be the best speaker, but I certainly like to use language, and I like the turns of phrases, and to use that to enhance any piece that I'm writing, whether it's in business writing or creative writing, which I have done over time for various people and for my, official employers. And so I gravitated towards that, and it was a good thing because I didn't always start off in public relations. I took a little detour. And then when I took stock of the skills and the interests and the passion and where I felt much more comfortable, I branched off into communications, and I had, the opportunity to work with a professional in the field who, really showed me the ropes, and it's all good. It's all good. So, I mean, I might have shown my age there just a little bit, because the programs were developed after, and even an entire university that, included more courses in what I, may have been interested in, developed after, and that's the University of Trinidad and Tobago. But I don't really have any regrets, because it never stopped me from doing what I love to do.
Yeah. You see,
it never stopped. It never stopped.
The arts, though, and I think for some of us, we can truly say that we have this gift, whatever it is, whether it's playing an instrument, whether it's using our body as an instrument. Because as an artist myself, one of the things growing up as a child, I've always heard, you need to get some education just in case if something goes wrong, you have something to fall back on, right? Because and I say that with endearment when I talk about the old timers, our parents.
Of course.
They most times they did not see the arts as sustainable. You have education to become a teacher, a doctor, or professions. Now times have changed drastically, but I think in being able to bring everything that you've done, everything that you've learned into who you are as a person, really helps to elevate you in the different aspects of your life. And that's what I'm hearing from you, Marva.
Yeah, I have really sort of maybe struggled with the whole question of purpose and passion and profession, and I never wanted to cheat anybody, but I wanted to be true to myself. And if our, parents and guardians or caregivers gravitated towards, where the money was at. It was because of what they knew. That's what they knew, and that's what they were seeing in their time. And still, those stock standard professions, they still get the kind of respect. But then, there are those of us who simply want to do and bring out what is inside of us. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I must say that I straddled both worlds because it wasn't the easiest thing living, off of the arts. Times have changed, of course, and those who go on to be, more qualified and that kind of thing, I imagine. But even for those individuals, it's still a little difficult. And I don't need to talk about the times that we're now in, which is, making it a little more tough as well. And I'm speaking about this pandemic age and all that it brings. But at the end of the day, there is something about being true to what is inside of you and pursuing that, rigorously, regardless of. And over the years, in between my corporate assignments, I've certainly found a lot of joy, and it has been rewarding financially as well, in terms of the artistic endeavors that I've engaged in. I have no regrets, really. I have no regrets.
How awesome, that you can just open your mouth and something melodious comes out, right? Or you just pick up an instrument and you just start to strum and everybody moves, and it's so funny. And I think in my next life, Marva, I'll come and I may not dance as much, but I play an instrument and learn to sing. I believe in my next life. So, fun and joke aside, I really admire the fact that some individuals stick to it despite the odds. And that's when you know that the person is passionate about what they're doing. I mean, you started off answering the question saying, oh, I'm going to date myself, right? Or something to that effect. And it comes to your history, the amount of years you've been doing this and still continue to do it. And like fine wine, getting better at it.
Give thanks,
So as you give thanks, I want to put you on the spot, seeing that you've been doing this stuff for so long. I'm going to test you now. Marva, why don't you just play something for us? Just play. You're proving yourself now.
Yes, Rose. I'll be happy. As you know, I mean, you said it in the opening, Calypso is what I'm interested in. It is what has, the reason why I started the group. And it touches on so many different topics. So maybe we could start off with this. One by Duke, because it's always about celebrating the masters.
Okay.
What is Calypso? I'm sure you don't really know. I'm sure you don't know what is really Calypso, because the words and the rhyme that we sing is only half the thing. I can tell you that Calypso is more than a work of art. It is a feeling which comes from deep within. Sometimes a tale of joy or one of suffering. It's an editorial in song of the life that we undergo, that and only that I know is true Calypso. I'll give an next verse. So you must admit there is nothing quite like it. Our forefathers were brought from West Africa. They used to chant and sing in the fields all day. And while they work, they sing in their own love way about how Master treat them bad. And so Calypso began here in Trinidad. It has a rhythm all its very own.
It has a native beat, boop, boop, all alone. It's a way of life, a way of love. From centuries ago, that and only that I know is true calypso. It's true calypso. It's true calypso. That one is by Duke.
I love it. I love it. I love it. You know, I'm listening to you and I'm watching you and the guitar become one. And I'm thinking that Marva said she only started, and I said only started doing this in 1992. You said that your involvement in music, theater, and arts began in 1992, Marva.
Yeah.
I mean,
Formally, I would say. Officially, if you wish,
what were
on the
you
circuit.
before 1992 to your talent as an artist?
I beg your pardon?
What were you doing before 1992
Right.
to nurture your talent as an artist?
Right. To answer that, I have to just speak briefly about where it all started, and I really give thanks to my grandmother. I grew up with a grandmother who was a church organist, and she played. There was a piano at home, so there was always music in the house, always. And she also ensured that we got lessons, and you know, I used to perform with my sister. One of my sisters, Marva, she'd play the guitar, and I would play the quattro, and we would sing, you know, and perform at church events and that kind of thing. I took that into school, playing a lot, accompanying my my friends, my colleagues for their calypso competitions, accompanying the whole school practically, you know. And in 1986, the first time that I traveled, it was because I was on an exchange with a school in London. And a group of us, about what, 21 of us, we went to London and we had put together a very tight performance to showcase Trinidad and Tobago culture. First of all, I was really very grateful to be part of this, to be selected. I was the only guitarist in the contingent, and I was just I was 17 years old, working along with my friends. So there was dance, there was a bit of drama, some monologues, and lots of singing. It was the year David Rudder, who is one of our premier lyricists. He did, you know, the Hammer and Bahia Girl. So we included other calypsos as well as folk songs. The highlight of that, I remember, is performing at the Commonwealth Institute in Kensington in London. And I remember that Sunday evening, it's a circular space where we had to perform, and there were people on different levels. And for a 17-year-old, maybe there are people listening who have, you know, performed at many other impressive spaces. But at 17, and looking out there and seeing their response to what we were doing, man, it was it was very I loved it. I loved it. I loved the moment. I love the fact that we were putting out Trinbago culture there, and it was being lapped up. It was being received in the spirit in which it was being given. The space was full. And I've always said that I want, and this is where it started, you know, those little nudges and the urgings of the spirit. I would like to do this. I would like to do this in a more, you know, professional manner, or at the very least more often. I think I was thinking more in terms of that, right? And so all during that time, my teen years, it was always about, yeah, we'll get Marva to do it. Yeah, you know, music ministry. You know, I grew up as a Roman Catholic, so that I have led choirs, I have played, I've provided accompaniment for many years, because, you know, all of that shaped me. So prior to 1992, before launching out, you know, on the circuit, just a little more in the public eye than I was before. I would say that I was, you know, it was a music ministry, because that music ministry also took me to the Cayman Islands and to the Bahamas and to Antigua, you know, and it was amazing. The music was always there. It was a different type of music at that time, but music nevertheless. But the calypso, I was listening all the time, always listening and loving and collecting. And you know, in those days, again, I'm going to date myself. we had the cassette recorders. So when the songs, the radio stations are playing the songs, you go and you press the cassette recorder to record the songs. So I could go back and learn them. I'm speaking here about the calypso. Go back and learn them, you know. And then 1992, an opportunity came through theater to play this music and to meet people who, you know, I think my dreams were sort of wrapped up in theirs. And if I'm to mention, you know, the first calypso musical was it was Sing the Chorus. I'm sorry, it was A Wonderful by Royal Gibbons, and you just read that. And so I'm indebted to director Louis McWilliams, who saw, you know, the talent in me. You know, I was working under a musical director at the time, Desmond Waite, but Desmond was arranging for a steel band side, and this play was being held when Panorama, which is our local pan competition, was taking place. So he had to be whisked away, and they looked to me. This is my first play. Rose, I was very concerned, but I said, no, you can lead the band. You could count them in. You can, you know, let them do their thing. You know the play inside out. And they believed in me, and they did invest, you know, time and energy in me and give me that boost. And I've done it. And I stood up there and directed the band, because the music is running all the time. You've got to get the right key, make sure the key is right for the actors to sing. Can't miss a beat, no, you know, downtime. You know how it is in the theater. And it was absolutely amazing.
You mentioned something that's critical, and my heart skips a beat every time I hear a guest talk about those individuals before us who nurtured us.
Yeah.
In the arts. We can't do this alone. We really can't do this alone. And for many of us, that passion is burning in us also to pass it on to others, because they said the best teachers are the ones who are continuously learning too. And I think it's very critical that we pay homage to those
definitely
who have led the way for us. And that's critical. So I really applaud you for mentioning those individuals who've helped.
But I want to mention one more person, because folk guitarist, calypso guitarist, and music director of a major folk performing group, Ewart Sarant. I don't think that the trajectory that I took would have been quite the same had it not been really for him. That was the music part, you know. Others brought the theater background, you know. But the music in theater and the folk and so on, there's a gentleman, Ewart Sarant. He's known to, you know, people I'm sure who are on the live, if people are tuning in. And he really nurtured, he saw some early talent, because I don't really want to say this, but I'll say it, you know, there weren't many females playing in the way that I was playing. And he saw that, and he saw the interest. And so he worked with me, not formally, but because we were involved in so many projects together, I was observing, and, you know, and he encouraged it. And I really want to give praise to him as well, because it helped me, you know, hone my skills as a guitarist, and then fitting in to the theater fraternity doing calypso musicals. Calypso musicals weren't very popular, you know. Here was Royal Gibbons using what is ours to tell the story, and what is ours is the calypso, the stories and the lyrics, and putting that storyline, crafting it together, and really putting it out there. And people responded positively.
Nice.
As part of that, and I'm very grateful for that. So you're right, you know, paying homage is very that's big on my list, Rose. It's big on my list, and I think it's something that we should all. It doesn't need to always be done publicly, but certainly privately, you know, be done nevertheless. Yeah.
You know what? Those individuals who see something in us, they may see things in us at different times and see different things in us. So we need them.
Definitely.
So why don't we take a break though and come back and talk about all of this exciting stuff, because I have a based on what you just talked
about.
Have
another clip.
Musicals. We'll come back. So let's take a break. Let's watch a clip and then we'll come back. I'm here today with my guest, Marva Newton. For those of you who've joined us late, you're here with me, Rose October, on arts, culture, and things in between. My guest today, Marva Newton. She calls herself a communication specialist. Listen, it's part of what she does, but listen, that girl is good with the guitar and her voice. But let's take a break.
Thank you, Rose.
Let's take a break and watch Marva. Marva, I'm wondering if you spend some time looking back at some of your work. I know for me, I don't, you know. Do you spend some time looking back at your work?
I didn't used to do it, but I must admit that with the advent of social media, Facebook makes it a little easier for you to actually see. But I don't always, this might sound funny, but I don't like always looking at it, you know. It's just a thing. But I don't know, as you get older, you begin to appreciate, you know, okay, that was a time in your life. And you see, because sometimes, you know, you always wonder if you could have done it a little differently. Yeah. You know how we are very critical of ourselves, you know. Well, some of us are, I know I am, you know, so I don't always look back, but sometimes I do. And I provided that clip, you know. It was my involvement in Bitter Cassava, which is written by Dr. Lester Ifibo Wilkinson, another gentleman that I really have to pay homage to. In the clip, a local singer, very respected, Miss Mavis John, does the lead vocals with the ensemble, and it's directed by Miss Lois Lois, who was the vocal coach. And my work on Bitter Cassava really was about bringing that authentic folk sound, though that particular item wasn't necessarily folk, but it's part of the folk play, bringing that folk song to life and leading the ensemble, right? And when Dr. Ifibo came to me, he said he couldn't quite think of, anybody else to really fall into that role and do it. And I saw that as somebody who has always been very supportive of me, and certainly, um, reaffirming in me the ability to really take the music. Some of it was original, and include all the nuances, and then lead the small ensemble to thrill the audiences. Yes, I just thought that that moment in the play in Bitter Cassava was always very moving, and it was just guitar and voice essentially. So
So,
it's just one of many.
but exactly one of many. That's what I was about to say.
Yeah, I'm so, yeah, I don't have clips like from my earlier times, the pre-smartphone
Era.
era. It in the pre-smartphone era, it wasn't as easy to capture. Yes, some things were recorded, but you got to go now and look for a tape somewhere, and that kind of thing. And we don't always have it, but in the smartphone era, it's a little easier, you know.
No, so you have done, in addition to doing Bit of Cassava by Dr. Lester E. Feeble Wilkins in Port of Spain in 2016, you were on that play. You were guitarist and band coordinator, right?
Yeah, I was. I led the ensemble,
Okay.
and yeah. Mhm.
And you've been, okay, I'm gonna blast you out now. You have been the musical director and coordinator and guitarist for the play The Roaring Seventies. That's when we met, remember? The Roaring Seventies. And that was
Yes.
a drama by Zeno Constance, produced by the Sapadilla Sisters, right? In
Yes.
2015.
Yeah.
And then in 2019,
Mhm.
music director of A Wanna Fall in Trinidad,
Mhm.
National Calypso History
Mhm.
Month. I'll ask you to talk about the History Month in a minute.
Mhm.
But I want to talk to you about how you describe yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
You refer to yourself a lot as a guitarist.
I do. I do.
Although you sing along with playing the guitar,
Yeah.
right? So
Mhm.
before I ask you about the singing piece, I, I know that you're able to read music.
Mhm. Mhm.
I've watched you work.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about writing or scoring music, as they say?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't score. What I do is I work with somebody to transcribe my ideas. And there's a wonderful gentleman, over the years that I have relied on, Mr. Mikhail Carter, for transcribing ideas that I have. Um, and not funny enough, it was actually one of the reasons why I was a little hesitant to come to New York. And I'm glad that I listened to Louis McWilliams, who was the person who asked me, to go to New York to do this production, Zeno Constance's production. Um, I want to say something. If you're hearing any noise, background noise, we are in election mode in Trinidad, and apparently there is some kind of motorcade or advertisement.
Okay. Yes.
And I really wish they would go away right now, but this is what is happening.
It's
Hopefully they don't stick around too long, but I'm hearing it. I'm sure you're picking it up. But I was saying that, Louis said to me, hey, he needs to go to New York. The Sapodilla sisters want to do this production. I can't think of anybody else but you to go with me. You know the material. Again, it's a calypso musical. And Rose, a lot of my work with Caribbean people living in New York at that time, or people who were not familiar with calypso at all. They were not familiar with the calypso, and so I had to work with them. We're talking here about coaching, getting those subtle nuances of the phrasing, the expression, apart from learning their lines, they had to learn the calypso. I mean, it's a calypso musical. So he relied on me, and this is the director, Louis, to really transfer that knowledge to them. And I think a lot of what I add to folk musicals and calypso musicals is that understanding of the calypso and the nuances, as I said. I think we take a lot for granted in that a lot of people, they don't know this art form that I may treasure and that a number of other people treasure. They don't really know it because we don't play the calypso on radio as something that was developed here, as something that we still hold competitions in, as something that is a part of our local festivals. You don't hear it on the radio. The young people today, and this is not a complaint, it's a statement of fact, that young people are hearing a lot of dance hall, perhaps, and hip hop. They might be into rap and that kind of thing, as opposed to calypso. So when they audition to perform, they don't quite know how to sing it, but you've got to be able to put it over much more authentically. And this is where I come in terms of shaping and crafting. And you would have some idea because you saw me work back in 2015, I think. It was a wonderful experience in New York, as I said. What also thrilled me is that, the team, the group of the cast was very appreciative of the work, and they took on a new respect of calypso because they saw the value of the lyrics, And I want to say a special shout out. I'm not sure, he probably wouldn't be listening, but today is Brother Valentino's birthday. He's 79 years old today, and The Roaring Seventies is a play, a musical that uses his work a lot. It is from his pen, and he gave us beautiful melodies. And I was able to work with somebody to transcribe and deal with some of the changes. I did have to write short pieces because as the director changed, I had to change too, so that the music. And what I remember about that production in New York, Rose, one of the things, Clarence Curvan, who is a Trinidadian who now lives out there in New York, I believe. He was a band leader, a respected band leader here. He came to the production one night and said he thought it was recorded music playing, and as I took that as a compliment, and I also commend the team of brilliant musicians with whom I worked as well out in New York.
But I want to raise your awareness to something, and you probably just passed it by, Marva, and didn't even stop to think about it. When you talked about coaching, working with individuals who really didn't know much about calypso from that aspect, from where the play was coming, and you were able to coach them. I saw your linguistic ability at work, because how our American brothers and sisters can sometimes struggle with our dialect.
Yeah.
And I do believe that once there is a good coach, such as who you were for this play, I mean, excellence was at the top. And I see that your degree,
Well, I think it's a love for language, it's a love for words local. That first clip that you played, Trinidad Dictionary, it explores the words that we use. a lot of it, we don't use those wabin. Nobody refers to a woman like that, but it's still part of our local parlance, our, grandmothers and so on. They use these words. A lot of them are French influenced. Some of them are from the Spanish, but it makes the language so alive. And it's interesting. Recently, a senior government official has been sort of including some of these words when he was addressing his audiences, and it's pretty interesting. It's sending younger people back to the dictionary. What did he say there? And so there's some people who have grown up and they have never heard these words, or they don't know how to pronounce them. So imagine working with people in, your American brothers and sisters, and you're trying to get that authenticity, and the director is insisting, okay, this is the cast we have to work with. We want to get that authenticity. The Roaring 70s is about our unrest in the 1970s, the Black Power movement, and that struggle for justice and peace and bread, and so again, using the calypso and working one-on-one. I remember it was a little exhausting working one-on-one with the individuals, but boy, was it rewarding, Rose. I really, to see the finished product, I was happy that I didn't turn Louis down, because I almost did.
I'm glad that you came, because that's how we met. But I also want to stick something in there to say, when I listen to the Trinidad dictionary, many of those words we use in Trinidad, and it's a Caribbean regional thing too. I like that, because some of the words I listened to, I was cracking up. I was like, that, yeah, we say that.
I'm glad you recognize them. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah. So I know as a creative, you have ideas for song. I know that. I mean, I'm not a songstress. I'm a singer, and I have ideas for songs. And if you listen to me here, if you become the fly on the wall, and you listen to some of my lyrics I put together, man, you'd be laughing at me. Tell us, Marva, tell us how you deal with your ideas of a song. I mean, considering that you do not score music, I'm thinking you'd be ashamed to have those ideas go to waste. How?
Well, when I was referring to the ideas, it was really from an instrumental point of view in terms of transcribing them, because a lot of the work that I've done, they are period pieces, and the music, it shifted. The music in the 1930s, I'm speaking about calypso again, 1930s, 40s, wasn't quite the same in the 50s. It certainly wasn't the same in the 70s and that kind of thing. So I was speaking about that part of it. I used to write, calypsos for smaller corporate competitions. People would come by me again to be drilled, just like how you have a drill master for the steel pan sides. People, might ask, how do I put this over? And I will, sometimes I've written kind of thing. Even when I was launching the Kyrie Kaiso back in 2011, I did an original piece that I had written, because I felt that as part of the whole celebration of the Masters, I also wanted to include pieces, but I didn't push forward with that, mainly because I think there is a body of work out there that remains largely unexplored. And as one of few females doing it in the way that I do, there is room and there is space to share those with people, right? I think you mentioned that I play with David Barrow. I owe a lot of praise to David. David does a lot of the more humorous types, and I've played with him over the years, and he focuses on that. And I felt as a woman, I wanted to include, when I'm performing, to include other types of song and to take advantage of the discography of a number of artists, women in particular. So you would find that an event with a slant for women, you know, I would be invited this year, International Women's Day, you know, Kyrie Kaiso performed. And I always want to make the music relevant to the event. And the event was, you know, panel discussion about domestic violence and other issues that are about women, okay? It doesn't mean that when you're entertaining, it has to be doom and gloom, you know? You can include some humor, but certainly some of the songs that, you know, I chose put the issue out there, because through the arts, through music, people sometimes get an understanding from a different avenue of what the issue is about, apart from sitting and talking about it. So I was really very happy to do songs that were relevant, you know, to the forum at that time. Yeah.
So I have to ask you one more question before we take a break.
Mm-hmm.
This piece with the singing piece, because I'm coming right back to that. You do not call yourself a singer.
No.
Sing beautifully, I think.
Thank you, Rose. Thank you very much.
How do you explain that? You don't call yourself a singer, but you sing beautifully. How do you explain that, Marva? How do you?
I don't know. It's a personal preference. It's the same way, you know, I call myself a guitarist, and I make it very clear I know 3 chords. And I don't, it's in a way, it's about not having any delusions of grandeur, right? I don't see myself primarily as somebody, I'm looking for a singer. I'm not going to say, hey, and put my hand up in the air. But when I put it together with the guitar and what I know on the guitar and the calypso, or maybe folk, I think I bring something. I bring an energy that you may not see that out there as often. I'm not saying I'm the only person as such, but I think I've found a niche that really expresses my interest and my passion. And so I put it together. But primarily I'm a guitarist, you know. Yeah, I don't, but thank you. Don't think I didn't hear the compliments about the singing. I appreciate it. But I wouldn't call myself a singer, you know.
Clarify one more thing before we take a break. You mentioned calypso musicals, you mentioned folk. And what I'm also hearing is the preservation of traditions, of art forms. Trinidad. How do you define wanting to be a part of a particular calypso musical or folk piece? What goes into you making your decision to be a part of that?
Well, I'm always very happy when work is created, as you said, that goes towards the preservation of the art form. And I mentioned that you don't have, you know, a whole lot of calypso being played and that kind of thing on the radio. So the opportunity to showcase it for young people, that, you know, that clicks immediately if I know that an audience. So you would find that in a number of the plays I've worked with, we always have school mornings. That's important. You know, it's also important, Rose, the fact that older people identify with this music and that nostalgia is a niche.
Right.
You know, and they need to be entertained as well. And there is nothing more rewarding than seeing those smiles, because it's preservation of memory, our stories, and preserving it through, you know, the musicals that are crafted. towards just that. And that gives me the impetus to go all out. I'm you know, tasked with choosing musicians, you know, the last one I did, last two, well, as music director, choosing the individuals, people with who, you know, have some kind of understanding, but through the vibration that you communicate to them, they bring it out, the music of the period. But those two things, young people and older people, they are close to my heart. They're dear to my heart. And I know that there's some people who are very dismissive of nostalgia. I have picked that up over the years, and for them it is about staying in one place. I don't see it like that. It's for them it's almost stagnation. I don't see it like that. I see it as a celebration of the ancestors, and I can tell you that you know, when iconography and everything that we see around does not celebrate, you opt to do it. You don't complain about it, but you opt to find ways to put it out there. I don't do it on my own because, you know, I'm working with people who actually create this stuff, but I bring the music alive in the way that I, you know how best to do that. And that is part, it adds to the body of work that is there, that somebody can look back and say, hey, this has documented Trinidad and Tobago music, and it celebrates the men and women who are exponents of the arts and putting it out there. And when you explore the lyrics as well, it's not only about the music. When you go into the lyrics, you can chart the history of the country in those lyrics if you take the time to go into it. And a number of exponents have, you know, stood out because they have, you know, they have done work that has been recognized more than others. That is not to say that every year we don't have a whole lot of men and women passing through Calypso tents who do not record, who, you know, we should forget about. And I'm saying that because there's a project that I'm going to be embarking on to sort of shine a light on those, you know, but as for another discussion, perhaps.
Well, I'm also what I also heard was the element of preserving folk culture there too, because if you talk, as you talk about way of life, you're talking about your traditions, folk, and life. But my takeaway from one of the takeaways from what you just said, Marva, is about the elderly. I'm very passionate about the elderly. For those of you, my mom died at 95 last year. And one that I discovered as a social worker, trying to bring comfort to my mom, was this element of, and it was a social worker who had discovered this, playing old music, oldies. And I remember getting a DVD recording from one of my friends, Dr. Lear Matthews. He's actually recording now with pieces of This Time in a Long Time. And I played that for my mom. And with her battles of dementia, Alzheimer's, you saw sparks in her eyes. She was tapping her hands, that kind of a thing, very responsive. So I'm saying that to say that what you are doing in terms of the revitalization of the masses music can also be therapeutic, can also serve in a form for, you know, so I want you to bear that in mind too, as you continue on.
And as you said that, Rose, it reminds me of the fact that every year I go to a particular home, you know, for the elderly, and I'm allowed to do that. And I see the smiles and I see the value of being there. And I was out in the Cayman Islands last year, and I had to miss going to the home in Trinidad. And do you know, an opportunity through my good friend from Barbados, who is now living in Cayman Islands, George Jones, asked me just like that, I'm going to a home, you know, it's close to Christmas. Would you come, Marva, and do some songs? And I was like, wow, I would love that. And I went, and again, the same kind of response, doing that stripped down, unapologetic music that they responded to. Yeah. And so you're quite right. You're quite right. It does have that therapeutic element to it, because these are older people. They're not, their bodies aren't working as they used to before. And man, to see them respond, it's something else. Big respect to music therapists out there, because that's work that they do, you know, officially, and it does play a role. Yeah.
You know, I'm having a moment. You said music therapist. Actually, my mom died on a Tuesday, and the Monday before she died, the music therapist was there. And we knew mommy was dying, and the music therapist played some, with her guitar too, Marva, played some Christmas songs.
Yes.
My mom actually waved bye-bye to me. Never forget that. And I knew it was close to the hour. So there's some power in that music therapy.
Give thanks.
Let's take a break. So listen, I am sitting with Marva Newton. She's not duplicated. Don't even try it. All right. She's coming to us via Arts, Culture, and Things in Between. I'm your host, Rose October, and we'll take a quick break and watch Marva at work, and we'll come back and we'll have some more.
Hey, now and again, it's nice to go down memory lane. Now and again, it's nice to go down memory lane. A little bit of nostalgia, good for your soul. Reminiscing about the days of old Trinidad. Tobago was really sweet when we remember the nice things we used to eat. You remember Kumaro, Indian sweetie? Bring them back, bring them back. I'm sure the children today go love chili, baby. Bring them back, bring them back. I hardly seeing guava trees and guava jam. Bring them back, bring them back. Coconut drop and go petty pocham. Bring them back, bring them back. Hey, what is go petty pocham, Caribbean people? Have you ever tried it? Aha! Those days were nice. Trinidad was a paradise. Lovely moonlit nights. We did not know about electric light. We used to sit down on the back step listening to Granny telling fairy tales. We didn't have no TV in those days. When you bought a sweetie in school, it's a cent or a penny, and boy, you're cool. I remember Chip Chip, Paradise Plum. Bring them back, bring them back. Holly used to stick up all between your gum. Bring them back, bring them back. But for a nice belly full of tarts and turnover, bring them back. Couldn't beat the big but woman in Nova. Bring them back. Hey, hey. Nice music. I heard from Grandma about tram car on the savannah. She also told us about the railway and trolley bus, running jockey in the canal I can't forget. Bubble syrup press, coconut palette. Those days in school partner was really nice. We used to have big waters, belt and shave ice. The choker and caramel was well known. Bring them back, bring them back. I believe in the corn and cassava pone. Bring them back, bring them back. They had a Bajan woman they call Miss Gittins. Bring them back, bring them back. She's the dance sword pay me used used to give me the shivers.
Bring them back.
Ladies and gentlemen, please don't find me bold.
Bring them back. Bring them back.
But I think that this calypso is gold.
Bring them back. Bring them back.
And before I sing and go any further,
Bring them back. Bring them back.
I want to remind you this song is by Relator.
Bring them back. Bring them back.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand.
Bring them back. Bring them back.
He is one of the finest calypsonians.
Bring them back. Bring them back.
I want you now to sing the chorus.
Bring them back. Bring them back.
At least you could cover up in case of bust.
Bring them back. Bring them back.
Ladies and gentlemen, I really have to mention.
Bring them back. Bring them back.
Playing the cajon, Mr. James Benton.
Bring them back. Bring them back.
All these sweet harmonies that you're hearing.
Bring them back. Bring them back.
Is Miss Nicole Carter who's singing?
Bring them back. Bring them back.
I hope all that go put me on mute.
Bring them back. Bring them back.
Miss Michelle Marva, she playing sweet flutes.
Bring them back. Bring them back.
Hey, I trying some example.
Bring them back. Bring them
We
back.
are the band. I read Kaiso.
Bring them back. Bring them back.
And I will tell you this, I'll tell you for true.
Bring them back. Bring them
We
back.
happy to do it for you. You bring the music up. Hey, I love a day. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. It's been wonderful. Long live Kaiso.
Bring them back, bring them back.
Yeah.
Bring them back, bring them back. Listen, I would not be able to feed myself or I to sing. Marva.
I find it sound quite good, Rose. Please, be modest.
No, I'll stick to dancing when the bones allow me. I will stick to that. But an awesome song. I really like that. You said it was Realtor?
Relator, Mr. Willard Harris.
Okay.
An amazing guitarist, musician as well. So, you know, I have admired him over the years. And so it's a pleasure to include Bring Them Back. It always gets a response because I try to extempo at the end of the song, you know, which is a part of Calypso, you know, the extempo where you make up on the spot, you know.
I like that. I like that because
it's tough. It's a tough thing to do.
You gotta be quick on your feet to do that.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
We just saw the band that you lead, Kyrie Kaiso. Explain to us. What about the name? Explain the name to us.
Oh, the name. When I was thinking about, hey, you know, I want to perform. I want to have my own group, Kyrie. I don't really know. I like alliteration.
Okay.
I like alliteration. But Kyrie is like the Amerindian term for island. Yeah. There's also Iere, I-E-R-E. But I didn't want to go with Iere Kaiso because not that is an insult or anything like that, but you know, there's a standard sort of mistake that foreigners make with, you know, thinking that everybody from the Caribbean is from Jamaica.
Right.
You know? And so I didn't go the way of Iere Calypso. I said, well, I'll use Kyrie, and then the alliteration is there, and it's very compact. And so I went with Kyrie Calypso because I want to get in that element too of island and local, not you know, there's this thing when foreigners come, so they used to like to request Yellowbird. We've moved away from that. It's not the Yellowbird model, but it is authentic Calypso as far as I'm concerned, you know. It's unplugged, and I like to say unapologetic, because sometimes, you know, people feel that, you gotta dress it up, man. But sometimes no frills works.
Yeah.
And I have seen that there are people who are interested in it. Um, we hosted CariFesto, which is the Caribbean Arts Festival. Every 2 years, somebody else hosted. It was in Trinidad last year, August. And I was on stage at that time again, half the group. It was just me and my percussionist, and somebody saw us, and that's how I ended up at the Rupununi Music and Arts Festival.
Oh, we'll talk about that in a minute. We will talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
Come back to, because one of the things that I like about this show is that I learned something. The viewership learns something.
Hopefully.
Now, teach us. This is where comes in. What is calypso? What is soca? What is kaiso? Compare them if you like. I mean, clarify, correct me, because there is, because of ignorance, people sometimes just throw everything together, and they might call one genre what it's not. So I'm asking you, as a musician, as a Trinidadian, as a Trinidadian, to explain.
Rose, that has people have argued about that for a long time, and I am from the school of thought that looks at calypso as the root music, right? Calypso is the mother music. And out of that of calypso, which tended to be slower in terms of the numbers of, beats per minute and that kind of thing, tended to deal with, it might be protest, it might be on current affairs, it might be picong as well, ridicule, anti-establishment, all of that, coming out of the experience on the plantation.
And it's usually slow.
And usually slow. I mean, we could safely say that, if you look at the rhythm over the years, and we've documented this in the plays and so on, usually slower. But out of that, with Calypso at the foundation, there's a gentleman, a Calypsonian Shorty, Rash Shorty in his latter days. He and others just around the same time were experimenting with East Indian rhythms in the music, all right? And soca developed. But the interesting thing is, the soca that they developed, say in the 70s and that kind of thing, doesn't sound like the soca of the stars today. Wow. There's a vast difference. And I'm sure that people listening would know the music of the Machel Montanos, and the Iowa George and Iowa George and Kes Defantala and the band Kes. Mm-hmm. It's different. And the music today, it's aligned so much with the festival and masqueraders wanting that pump to cross the famed Savannah stage. You find that the topics in the music, which is very fast, it tends to be quite fast, tend to deal with mass and stage and waving flags, mm-hmm. and having a great time and drinking. All of the elements that you would find in a festival setting. And I'm speaking about Trinidad Carnival, and I would say it is one of the greatest shows, Mm-hmm. And it's ritual, it's all of those things, and the music goes with that. But calypso was there first and still bubbling at the foundation, because that is not to say that you can't tell a story in a soca song, that the element of storytelling is not there. Uh-huh. In some of them, but we've lost much of it and the language. So it's the element of music, not only speed, maybe the patterns, but also the lyrics.
Right. Would you say it has to do with trends also? Because, in this era of social media where there is easy access to other cultures, the infiltration of other cultures into home cultures, home tradition. Would you say it's trend also, though, Marva?
When you say trend, you mean like because okay, so it's easier to hear what's to be in tune with what's going on in Africa, perhaps because you know that high life and Afrobeat, it has come into the soca, eh?
Well, part of that is the trend that I'm talking about, but I'm talking about trends more in terms of what the young people or what the now singers, what the modern singers, I would say, embrace. You know, because
and you see, and this is why
you don't find too many. And please, I'm not generalizing here. There's a segment of the young artists that really don't embrace consciousness of politics and ways of life and all of that. And that's where we see the wave your flag, jump and go down, you know, and all of that stuff, which is fine because there is a place for all of that. And when I talk about, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you know, but I would still say that, you know, the calypso, whatever is current, whatever is current always finds its way into the calypso in terms of musical influences and in terms of the approach to the lyrics. But I think again, because you know, there is not that consciousness, and though there are struggles, I think the gravitation is towards you know, the dub or Jamaican dancehall to address those issues more than, you know, a young person might put it in a calypso, because it's so much based, so much intertwined with the festival nowadays. It's not that calypso was the music that was driving carnival over the years, but there was a greater consciousness, I must admit, in terms of addressing those issues. And a lot of the composers have said, you know, who wants to hear that stuff when we jumping up? We don't want to hear that, you know, you can't get water and your leader is, you know, involved in corruption. And so they relegate that, they leave that for the Calypsonians, because make no mistake, Calypso is still, it's still alive, you know.
Yes.
You know, it's still alive, you know, throughout the year. And I think I have to give kudos to TUCO, our Calypsonian organization, because they are doing their job. And you mentioned Calypso History Month, where it's highlighted, yes, but there are efforts to host competitions outside of the festival, and that's a good thing to do, to try to drive it. I know that there may be people who will disagree with me on that as a dying art, etc., but I'm not of that view. I'm not of that view at all. It's still there still a group of young people who gravitate towards it, you know.
So let's talk about that month, because we hinted to it earlier on, and now we're talking again about the trends and all of that. There's a calypso month in October. Is it October?
Yeah, a National Calypso History Month.
Okay. Tell us about that, because I've never heard about it until we spoke.
Yeah, and it's such a good thing. And again, it's one of the initiatives of the Trinbago Unified Calypsonians organization, TUCO. And they started, let me see, I could liken it to Black History Month.
Okay.
You know, I think that's what is it, February or something like that in the US. It is simply a month that is dedicated to putting the spotlight on Calypso and Calypsonians. Okay, so you get, I mean, we have chosen, when I say we, I mean Canbole Productions, a production company with which I have worked as, you know, the resident music director, have opted to put on the Calypso musicals during that month because of the focus. You have award ceremonies, films, the full works, to celebrate these exponents of what is a true and valuable art form, coming out of Trinidad. So the month of October, led by Tuco, is dedicated to that. But, a number of, other, you find that venues, but this was, up to last year, venues would host more live calypso action, and Kairi Kaiso has benefited from that over the years. There's a space in the West called the Movie Town, Fiesta Plaza. We have gotten the gigs during that month, at that time, and other private corporate gigs and so on, just keeping the thing alive. I think it's it's something very good to do. During that time as well, I get a little busier in terms of going into schools.
Right.
The reception is always very positive.
I'm thinking, it's so funny you said that, because I'm thinking just having a month in itself to do this, so much can happen in terms of tapping into those young minds. And as you were talking about that, the elements involved in Calypso History Month, I started thinking that for Guyana, I will start speaking to those who have ears to hear about having a national masquerade month, because one of our traditions is masquerade, and I'm a part of the Guyana Cultural Association, and we work on keeping art forms alive.
Sure.
We've done a 4-year project of Masquerade Lives. And I'm putting this out there now. We need to work on the Guyana government about having a national masquerade month, heritage month, whatever we want to call it. So you've kind of sort of just planted a seed with us talking about the National Calypso Month that you celebrate in Trinidad. So yeah.
Happy to do that, and even if you don't wait for the government to endorse it, I mean, certainly the groups that are involved in masquerade can take lead, and and we know how when it's good they tend to jump on board, with the funding and that kind of thing. But to start off, I'm never one to sort of blame. I'm not suggesting that you are, wait for the government. People who have the vibration and the energy, and they really want it to happen, certainly, and get the media on your side, so that they could showcase, because they've been really good during Calypso History Month.
See, the thing though, and I don't want to take away from what we're talking about with your work. The thing with that though is that because masquerade is struggling to stay alive in Guyana, we suppose that be on board, so that's why.
Sure. I hear you. I hear that.
But we'll take another break. I'm sitting with Marva Newton. Viewership, for those of you who are just joining us, thank you for joining. I'm Rose October with Arts, Culture, and Things in Between. I'm talking with Marva Newton. It's awesome to sit here talking with a female about what most might consider kind of testosterone topics like
Calypso.
But we're having a good conversation here, and
it's all good. Yeah, I think so. And thank you, Rose. And I know we haven't ended yet, but thanks for having me. So
I'm enjoying this. So I'm totally enjoying this, Marva. But let's take a break. Let's take a break and watch Marva at work again.
Enjoy this one by the Mighty Bomber. John and James, down by the seaside playing games. I see 2 little children, James and John, playing games by themselves alone. John asked James what he want to play. He making style and he wouldn't say. Whenever I remember, I just have to laugh. The little saga boy turn and he tell me crap. He say, dying, dying. Only we play little mommy. You is the mommy. I is the daddy. He born again, dying, dying. Make up the bed like we don't know. And when we wake up tomorrow, me and you go mine like a popo. Hey, games that children play. Oh my gosh. The little boy, watch him and she start to cry. Come, let we play the favorite game of mine. So he asked her what is favorite game. She was calling so many different names. Me a playing, the little boy start to shout. I don't know them games, what you talking about. You see this ring of roses and hide and seek. I cannot run about much cause I'm feeling weak. Oh yes, you is the mommy. But I know the song. Sing it out. Dying, dying. Make up the bed like we don't know. And when we wake up tomorrow, me and you know mine like a popo. Now they're living still in a pretty little shack in Laventille with 5 little children. If you want to know, well, it's a favorite game that we have them. So, well, if you see them how they looking like mom and dad, so many popos to represent Trinidad. You may think that a lion, but it's true, you see, because John is the wife and James is he. Oh my gosh, true story. You is the mommy, I is the daddy. We born again, dying. Make up the bed like we don't know. And when we wake up tomorrow, get me not again, I say dying. Come let me play, you is the mommy. Tell she I oh my gosh. Caribbean people, wake up tomorrow, and you go high like a popo. This one was for Mama, celebrating the masters. Oh my goodness.
So we're back with my guest, Marva Newton. Man, this music is so catchy. I don't know the lyrics, but I was mumbling my own words and shaking.
Yeah, and that's why I celebrate those, the writers. And in the true tradition of Calypso, they wrote what they sang. And that Bomber, he won the Calypso Monarch back in what, 1964 or something like that.
Wow.
Well, he's in his 90s now. He doesn't sing and perform anymore, but he is like a walking encyclopedia about the music and Calypsonians with whom he worked over the years and for people that he wrote for. And so it's an honor to celebrate him and to keep it alive. Yeah. You go into a school, you sing that, it registers.
Yes.
Yeah, with them. And, and in terms of the issues too, because I think I mentioned earlier, you can get protest songs, Kong, the extempo. I mentioned the extempo. And I have to say that is always a high point because I try to show how it was done before. And it's the young people gravitate towards it. One of the pictures, one of the photos there was they wanted to know, a group of students wanted to know the chords because there's a set melody for the extempo, which is singing extempore. singing extemporaneously, if you wish, making up on the spot. But it's typically used to like mess up people or to ridicule people. So they like that. You don't have to get all, serious about it and everything. But that element, so I always bring that up because it is a legitimate and the people who are able to do it well, they got to be respected.
Yeah.
They got to be respected, making up in the moment. So when I go into the schools as well, there's a historical aspect.
Yeah.
How it was developed. If you don't hear your history or know about it, there's nothing for you to feel proud about. And I certainly believe that when I discuss like the 30s and the 40s, when Calypsonians had to deal with censorship from the colonial government, and things like that, it always sparks. It's always a comparison, how are we living that over again today, and these are the conversations that we have, and about the artists and the tools that they use to write their songs.
So I wanted to jump in and talk about the fact that, and we hinted at this before, about the others who've invested in you, and now you are invested in investing in the young ones. And I know that you find time to teach parang, folk, and calypso. And I'm wondering I'm deliberately asking the question this way, what difficulties give me 2 difficulties that you can highlight that you experience when you're meeting with the youths to really do the preservation of the master's work, so to speak. How do you get through to them?
Yeah, you'll have, depending on the age group, it's a little more difficult. But usually when I'm asked to do these things, it's because the cohort, they're interested.
Okay.
It was interesting earlier on this year, there's a group called the Bocas Lit Festival. They host a literary festival in Trinidad. And they approached me along with a Calypsonian, an authentic Calypsonian. He goes by the name of Chucky. And they wanted to explore for spoken word artists how they can sort of, explore the nexus between calypso and spoken word. And so we had a real interesting session. And you found that they may not have known about some of the artists who had gone, and the type of music and the type of songs that you could put out in calypso. It's not only about like current affairs, and so we explored that. So you had them engaged in that kind of thing. The picture there again, schools, secondary schools. Apart from the fact that they may be tested in some area, after their guest has left, I have seen genuine interest. I have brought them in because I might introduce this session with what is calypso, so they're listening. That first song that I did at the top, I might start like that. And then I will do the extempo. They always like that. I have to be careful because it's not the easiest thing to do. But of course, before I might have some ideas of where I'm going. And they're engaged with the extempo. And so it becomes a little easier, when you talk a little bit about the history and that kind of thing, and challenge them to create their own, and recognize it as a part of our tradition here in Trinidad and Tobago. It's about how you engage them. And I know the attention spans, in this era.
Yes.
And they're very visual. I mean, I've used PowerPoint. I've had to use, the images, had them guessing which Calypsonian is this, and it's amazing that, people who it's not amazing. If you don't know, you don't know. I might put up a photo of the Mighty Sparrow, and they may not know it's the Mighty Sparrow. And this is somebody who has really taken the music to the world, but that's where we are, depending on the age group. So it's, the images to get them engaged and so on.
Do you give them a chance to like try out something, maybe try out 2 lines or something that they or to get to create something?
Yeah, that's also a part of it. And they may be, asked to do that even further. But in especially with the extempo, because um it's a fun, it's very fun. You pit two people against each other, and they have to sing on them. And that always brings out a lot of laughs and that kind of thing. So they're actually doing it, the value of participation and actually doing something. It engages them a lot more than being spoken to or spoken at.
Right.
And it's not, sometimes, you get a little problematic. There's always somebody in the crowd who is just not interested and make it a little difficult. But I haven't encountered that a lot. I must say, I've always encountered genuine interest, and questions are asked afterwards. Almost invariably, they want to know how to play that extempo melody. And by that, let me demonstrate for the people who don't know. They may not be la 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 da 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 ba da 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 la 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 la. I really should be singing words, but I just wanted to show the melody, like I don't want to embarrass myself by trying to extempo and then a bust.
So
well, we are sitting here today, and I really have to say, I'm going to try a verse, but I do not want anybody to think I rehearse. I'm happy to be with you, Rose. All these hard questions that you pose. But what I really mean, it's good to be here on arts, culture, and things in between. I try something. Totally on the spot, eh? Totally on the spot.
It worked.
Give thanks. Give thanks. Yes. But the children, they like that. They love that. And when you see you give them the opportunity to try it out, they don't want to stop.
So let me ask you this. You're gonna laugh at me now, Marva. So what is die 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 doi die die bibi dibi doi 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 boy ba doi doi ba 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 boy ba doi doi? What is that? Is that considered extempo or no? That is just making herself a fool.
Rose, well, no, you didn't sing any lyrics there, so that is not really extempo. What you have to do is get some lyrics to go with that melodic line, that melody that you just sang there.
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. I can bring up the rare, making them songs that I love, and I don't know what they mean and what I'm saying and what I'm doing. All I know that it's something nice to me, and I'm having fun. Oh man! But let's take a break, though. Oh, did you want to say something? Go ahead.
I was just saying that that's one of the drawing cards for the students, and it's a real joy seeing them do it. And it's also a drawing card for us as Trinbagonians. That's how we line. We are people of rhythm and rhyme, and when we get together, we tend to sing and stuff. And any casual line, you find that somebody might break out in an extempo, and the bottle and spoon come out. And that's who we are. That's who we are. And I love it. I love it. I really do.
So my extempo would be something like, thank you, Marva, for coming today. I really appreciate you. How about that? That's the most I can give. Marva, that's the best I can give.
Well, I'll give you a little clap for that, and thanks. I appreciate being here too.
All right, we're coming down to the end, my viewership. This is Rose October with arts, culture, and things in between. As you can tell, I'm having me a blast with my guest today, Marva Newton, who calls herself, one of the things that she calls herself is a communication specialist. But I'm putting that to the side today only because of the nature of this program, it being arts, culture, and things in between. And I'm focusing on her being a guitarist, her being a singer, her being a musician, and everything else that speaks to her artistic ability. We'll take a quick break and come right back and talk some more to 5 o'clock with my guest today, Marva Newton. Marva Newton. Marva Newton. Let's take a quick watch.
When you feel that the time so down, there's more time so to come. When you feel that the time so down, there's more time so to come. When you feel that the time so down, there's more time so to come. And when you feel that the time so down, there's more time so to come. Gina, Dana, Rosita, and Kamantina sing the song for our whole day. Excellent broken, you can get them all for nothing. Don't make a road, mama. Yankees go and sparrow take over now. Hey, last friend to San Fernando. Last friend to San Fernando. And if you miss this one, you'll never get another one. Last friend to San Fernando. Slide on the loose, don't go your way. Slide on the loose, don't go your way. The who's going to be white man, take out one and take my chicken. Inside the way for party, slide on the loose. I like the voice say, slide on the loose, don't go your way. Slide on the loose, don't go your way. And it's so rude. I heard a warning, I saw somebody crying. I could imagine what was happening. So they told me right, but they know she never sing. Never, no Lord. I saw fire, baby, yeah, she's fire, fire. In the wire, I can't. Good morning, Mr. Walker. Oh, Mr. Walker. Rosemary, promise she gon' marry me. Now I'm tired of waiting. Hey, she gon' leave, but she wearing them expensive dress. People say she ugly, but she find out what I'm money. Oh Lord, my boy. Hey, good morning, Mr. Walker. Oh, Mr. Walker. Sweet Rosemary. I so, now I'm tired waiting. I'm looking at it. Hey, it's a program and it disappears. Everybody keeps searching everywhere. Mama, your wedding later keeps on the dress. Under she dress, taking a breath, the way she jolly and happy. And so the listen must be taken. She oh Lord, she ran right through. Wonder what will happen, but shut up, when you watching everybody. Hey, let her run that feet and sing, sing it, sing it, sing it. Everybody. Hey, mama, your wedding listen. Back home, let's get a line going, you know. You understand? The way she jolly and happy, and so the listen must be taken. Bim, 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 number. Bim, 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 number.
Winding down. Wow. You were in my neck of the woods, as the Americans would say. You know,
Yeah.
you were in good old Guyana, good old GT. Uh,
GT.
how was the experience? You actually went to the Rupununi Music and Arts Festival, right?
Yes, we were invited to perform for that.
Who thanked you?
And
You started to talk about that earlier.
yeah, when I was performing for Carrie Festa in Trinidad back in August, Dr. Bob Ramdani was in the audience, and he came to me after what was a very short performance and said he produces, along with a group of people, a festival. And I did look it up, and sometimes people tell you things and it doesn't always happen. But in this instance, 3 months later, 4 months later, it happened, and we were able to go. We were well taken care of, and I had an amazing experience. And that's James Fenton with me, my very trusted percussionist, very talented. And so we were able to go and be part of this 2-day festival, which didn't take place in the in interior. Did I get that right? It
Yeah.
usually takes place in the hinterland,
Yeah.
but it was for several reasons. It was held at the Theatre Guild
Yes.
in Georgetown, but it was on the outside, and it was, people were sitting on the grass, and so on, and there were chairs as well, both sides. So I was dealing with audiences, and I love the fact that they were singing along with me, providing. Yeah, I mean, they were very much into, the audience was very much into it, and it was well received. I have good memories, good memories. I want to say though that I used to play music with somebody from Guyana actually, who came over here to live, Miss Ruth Osman. Ruth is a flautist, as well as she writes her original songs. So the first time I actually performed in Guyana was with her at again, it was the Theatre Guild, and it was back in something like 2012 or something like that, a couple of years ago. It was a show with Paul Keams Douglas, but that was, I was just supporting her with her music, that kind of thing. But it was a Ghana experience. It's always been good. But to perform as Kyrie Kaiso, priceless. Give thanks for the experience.
Oh, so glad that Carrie Kaiso was able to go to Ghana. So as we are closing this off, what's next for Marva Newton? What's next for Kyrie Kaiso? What do you want to tell us? You
Yeah,
left us with a lot of lasting memories, I could tell you that.
give thanks. Yeah.
What else, if there is any?
Well, we were supposed to be in your neck of the woods this year, and and that didn't happen because of the pandemic. But you hailed out Andrew Clark earlier, and I have to give thanks to him, because we performed, those clips were from the Bankra Caribbean Festival. So that when these things happen, you don't complain about it. You make the shift to these platforms and still take the music out. And I see us doing more of those, getting more opportunities like that. But I don't think it's quite over yet. I'm hoping that things change, and so that we could start traveling again. I would say that there is a date that I have in Scotland that was supposed to be in June this year, and it's been shifted to next year. So I'm looking forward to that, and it's all about the calypso. I don't want to talk too much about that project, just yet, but it's all about the calypso as well, and using it to bring history alive. And I'm also very grateful for that opportunity. But I see Kyrie Kaiso continuing, learning more songs and exploring, different areas to perform in. But if this is the virtual way we've got to go, well then suffer it to be so. We have to shift with the time,
Definitely.
Yeah. And somewhere inside of there, I know that I would certainly want to keep the young people in mind as much as possible. It is definitely part of our mission, and we certainly want to keep that up. Yeah?
Yes, and thank you for making arts, culture, and things in between a part of your mission for this Sunday. I truly appreciate that you were able to stop by and have rich conversation with me about the work that you do, and it's quite admirable. I say it, I'll borrow your word, unapologetically. I really admire the work that you're doing, Marva. I commend you for the work that you're doing and wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, Rose. Thank you. I appreciate your selecting me. It's probably for a reason, you know. You saw something, and I appreciate that. I much prefer to stay in the background. I will say it out there. But you know, sometimes we got to take that step, and who knows who might say, yeah, you know, hey, I like that, or I could do that too in some small way.
Yes.
And that happens, it happens. It's real. It is real.
And we learn from the guests coming on.
Yeah.
We learn from the guests coming on.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
One person has learned something new. We're good. We're good today. I have learned a few new things, but as I wrap this up, I've just said thank you to Marva Newton, my guest today. I want to say thank you to the viewership for joining us again. To those of you who are joining for the first time, hope you enjoyed it enough to come back next week and tell a friend. I would like to say big thank you to Raul De Silva, the technical engineer behind all of this, making it happen very, very smoothly and seamlessly. He runs rdpros.com. Please check him out. When you get a chance, the work that he is doing, despite his busy schedule, I know he's tired, he finds time to do this with me. And we both are not getting paid. I just needed to put that out there. And to wrap this up, I also want to say that the Ghana Cultural Association, of which I'm a part of, we have our Caribbean Heritage Summer Workshop series that began last week. It goes for 8 weeks. So please check our Facebook page. You'll get a lot more information there, and we're encouraging you to have your young ones come and be a part of it. You'll also see our timetable for our folk festival season. We are doing it virtually. Yes, we are not far removed from the pandemic. We have to work in the virtual spaces also. So please continue to support us. And on that note, I say again, thank you to viewership. And just as important, thank you to Marva Newton, my guest for today on arts, culture, and things in between. I wish you a productive week and see you next time. Bye-bye.